Alrighty, good evening everybody. Today is November 9th and it's around 5 o'clock. Wanted to do another update video real quick. This one's actually going to be a little different. I guess it was time for, a little different way of doing some things. So I wanted to kind of go back to, I think, what originally started, which was some of the questions and answers. And I can tell you I didn't preview these questions, but I'll assume they're good, and we'll just kind of take it from there. My understanding is these will be a little bit different in the sense, I guess they're more, I don't know, personal, something along those lines is all I've been told. So hopefully not too personal. So anyway, let's see here. Oh geez. All right. All right, it says, what do I like most about my job? Okay, I can tell where that's going. I like a lot of things about, the job that I have. I think probably the most thing I like the most is seeing the changes, the positive changes that have happened here, financially, and then, aesthetically, when I look at, the club or the course, the pool, the lake. And I also like knowing that, listen, we've got a lot farther to go, and we're just now scratching the surface, not even a year yet. So that'll be brief. I've been told to be brief. Thank you. And then, okay, what is the one thing I would change that I've done over the last year? One, that's it. I do a lot of things differently. Probably the thing that stands out the most is, probably would spend more time getting out information. And let me explain that, because the information has been out there. Everything that I can put out there and I can help put out there has been out there for quite some time, but making it easier to get to that information, and so people can really see what's going on, and the transparency that others claim aren't there that are, and it's there for a reason. There's nothing to hide. There are certain things we can't disclose. There are certain things that you wouldn't want us to disclose, especially in the positions that we're in and under the lawsuit and lawsuits, things of that nature. But just making it easier. I think I'd also put a focus in on a lot of the new homeowners who, have kind of come into this, and hopefully their brokers, real estate agents, let them know as much as they can. I know I've talked to many of you who are new and probably hopefully watching this video, and I didn't lie to you, and I told you everything that I possibly could and didn't mislead you. And if I did, then you can speak up and let me know. And I've probably talked to your brokers and realtors too. I know quite a few I've talked to. So that's it. I just think but there's so much going on, and there's so much to do that it's I criticize myself and the way the things go, and I'd change a lot of things, but that probably would be the first one. Next one. What was your biggest mistake since becoming CEO? Well, that's almost like the same one, I think. I don't know. I guess this is a little different. Mistake. I mean, again, that's a tough question. I don't, people try to capitalize on any mistake I make. It seems not the vast majority of people are watching this, but I know some will. What was a mistake? I would say probably the first one that sticks out is, who we hired to do the construction in the old office building. It's a mistake now. I didn't see it as a mistake then. In hindsight, of course, makes it clear. I know that the reasons that I hired, that person to do the work was because, how deeply I cared about, people that were involved there, and wanting to keep things into this community, and believing that me believing incorrectly that that would have, you know, been a good thing. Clearly, I admit, you know, that was a mistake, one that was made with all the right intentions and good intentions behind it, but I would do that differently. So, but you live and you learn, and no, not even that will have me lose faith in this neighborhood or in this HOA, because there's too many good people, and that won't happen. So, so all right. Hopefully, better questions here. Okay. What do I do? What do you do? Oh, geez. Okay. So what do you do for fun? All right. Well, I've got 3 little kids running around right now, and they're the loves of my life, so they're fun. And I do call them my toys, which is the reason why I created them, to play with them, and I remind them that of every day. You know, I take them to their extracurricular activities, and you know, I really enjoy that. I love just hanging out with my family. I mean, that truly is a lot of fun. It's something that I miss a lot, especially over the last year and a half. I don't spend enough time with them. So, but they know what's going on for the most part, and they trust that it'll be over in due time. So, outside of that, I love to play chess. I do play often. Kind of have a routine with it until it makes me mad at times, but I love it. And you know, I do play like speed chess or blitz chess, and I play like 1-minute games. I know a lot of people think you can't play chess in 1 minute. Believe me, I play a lot of 1-minute games, and I can play chess, and fortunately I lose too much, but I do win. I play for the victories, but I get beat a lot too. And yeah, you can play an entire game in 1 minute per person, and you're not always playing chess. You're also playing the time. And I also do like a 2-1 and a 3-2, and I'll do a 5-minute game, and then maybe I can play a 10 to 15-minute game. Although that's really hard to do after a while, because it's a totally different game. That's how I grew up playing chess, was taking me 2 hours to finish a game. But yeah, I love chess. I think that's fun. There are other things I do obviously for fun, but that was probably on the top of the list. So, all right. How many hours a week do you work? All right. Well, I think I know where you're going with that. I'd just say a lot, and that's all I'm going to say. A lot of hours, and it's worth it. So that's it. And next question: what do you consider to be the hardest part of your job? The hardest part of my job? That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. What's the hardest part of my job? I'm gonna have to skip that one. Honestly, I don't know. I'll come back to that one. Stumped. Okay. How many children do I have? I have 3 children. I have my oldest is a daughter. She's awesome. She's 11 now, and she's definitely, she's the leader. She's a strong, very, very, very empathetic little girl, and not little anymore. But although she promised me she'd stay little, she's not doing it. So no, she's the she was the first and child that we had, and somebody I adore like no other for sure. Don't really know what I'd do without her. Certainly she's been a huge light in my life. Daughters are hard to come by in my family, so treasure her. And I pretty much tell the boys, they're a dime a dozen. Well, I'm joking, but half joking. They're definitely not a dime a dozen, but we've got a lot of boys in our family, so the girls get special treatment. And let me rephrase that: they get special treatment in ways that the girls should get, as far as their own rooms and their own things. But my father was that way with my daughter, and I can tell you, my three brothers, we understood it and never bothered us at all. Cue Joe behind me. Anyway, then I have my two boys. They're 7 and 6, and good kids. They both go to Willow. My daughter goes to Lindero, and awesome kids. And my boys, my middle son, he's a lot like his mommy. He's very chill, very, very chill. He's very magnetic, and is just a good kid, just a really good boy, easy to be around. A lot of kids kind of gravitate towards him, and that's him. And then my youngest, he is like I told them, some of you will get this humor, hopefully all of you do. My youngest, his name's Bane. That's like Wayne but with a B. And Bane is he's definitely the love of my life too, as they all are. I say that about them, but Bane is different than the other two in a lot of ways. And there's two things I tell him, depends on the day, but I pretty much stick to these two. I said, when I had your sister, she was so good and so great, we had to have another one. And we had Christopher, who's my son, and Christopher, just like a sister, they were so easy to raise. They slept right away for the most part. Plus my wife, she was obviously such a good mommy, but such a good boy and such a good sleeper. All of our kids have been good sleepers, I said. And then we had Bane, and we stopped having kids. So it's not true like that, but I always say, Bane was more of a challenge. And with that, Bane is awesome, such a good boy. And I also then followed up with the truth, which is, he's the icing on the cake, Bane. So having him, we knew we had done the best we could. So with him, he's got his heart on his sleeve, no doubt about it. He's just such a good boy, but man, he's got a little ways about him. The first two, they're pretty easy, very good, but Bane, he's just he's an extremely rewarding son to have, because you tend to overcome quite a bit with some of the things that he does and stuff like that. So just such a good group. I mean, the kids, honestly, I mean this, you're never gonna hear me say anything different. It's an honor to be their father. It's been a absolute gift that we as parents know. I mean, I really can't tell you what an honor and how proud it is to be with them and to hang out and to see them. They're mine. I'm proud of them, and I love to hang out with them. So and they're good kids, and they know the values that we've instilled in them, and the importance of them being close and respectful, and understanding their roles within the family. And sometimes they don't like it, but like I tell my daughter, she's the leader. Life isn't going to be fair when you're the oldest, but I do my best. And that one's not going to be so brief, but those are my kids. I love them more than anything in the world, and very fortunate to have them. So, all right, next question. How long have I been married? Well, let's see. I've been married 20 years, 4 months, or 3 months and about 2.5 weeks. So yeah, it's been well, maybe one day you'll hear the story of my wife and I, but it was great. I met my wife in Eastern Europe when I was serving as a U.S. Marine there. I worked at the U.S. Embassy there. We met back in 1997, and all I'll tell you is before I met her, I used to hang out with the Germans, the Brits, the Aussies, and the Canadians, and because we were a diplomatic community, and so when we were in a area that was considered, imminent danger and all that stuff, which that's what they considered it. I get it. Anyway, yeah, we always used to hang out, and apparently for at least the first 2-3 weeks, I never saw her, but everyone else did, and swore up and down that she's so beautiful, she's so this, that, and the other thing, and I started thinking that she didn't exist, because every time I'd go hang out, she wasn't around, and every time I was on duty, I'd hear these stories, and yeah, it was an amazing thing. And I remember the first time I met her. A little quick story on that was all of her friends, at least, that I had known, all spoke English except her, and I started talking to her like I normally do for too long before I realized her face got red and she didn't speak English, and she had no idea what I was saying, and her friend kind of nudged me. So yeah, it was great. Absolutely love of my life for sure, and always my number one for sure, and I make that really clear. So certainly don't know what I would do without her, don't even want to think about it, to be honest. So we've come a long way together. We've been through a story that hopefully one day I'll share with everyone, on your terms though. So yeah, I mean, those of you that met her know what kind of special person she is, and any of you that met her, you know that. So not only is she extremely beautiful, she's an electrical engineer getting her master's degree in electrical engineering, and works really, really, really hard, is a great mother, the best wife I could ever know. She's nowhere around, and I highly doubt she'll watch the video, but she yeah, is the best thing that ever happened to me by far. So all right, and let's see here. Oh, I guess the last one. Okay, so this one. Okay. Well, who's had the greatest influence on my life? Who's had the greatest influence on my life? Well, I don't know if it would be a person. I would say the greatest influence in my life is, I think my mom and dad certainly had the greatest influence. I knew my dad not for probably close to 4 years, but I mean, he certainly had a huge impact in that amount of time. Very positive impact. Even anything that would be negative, would have been a great learning experience. So that definitely was an influence. He was passionate, extremely passionate, and I think I got that passion from me, and I think I passed it, at least a lot of it, on to Bane. And I would say that is a yeah, it definitely influenced. My mother, for sure, would be the most influential person in my life, although there is one other person, but I guess as far as my mother, she was a single mom, raised 4 very strong kids mentally, and we grew up in a I was very blessed the way I grew up. I just would say this, that it was very financially difficult for us. We knew it, but it made us better, and to have a single mother raise 4 of us, and to have to work 2 jobs to do it, and all of us have turned out really well. I know my brothers and sister have, so I think I've done all right. So yeah, that that type of perseverance from a young age, and seeing my mom, who was, you know, really strong, incredibly strong. I mean, went through things that nobody could imagine. And trust me, I don't think there's anybody around here who would even come close. And I know everyone's been through tough stuff, but I don't say that without recognizing how difficult it's been for a lot of people. So I'd put her, in that same category as a single mother who's been able to work hard, but her trials and tribulations are unlike anybody's that I know or have ever met. And I've met a lot of people in a lot of different countries, and South America, Eastern Europe. Nobody's had to go through what she's had to go through. Again, I'm not trying to compare, how bad things were, but she actually had to go, gone through a lot, and so definitely a huge influence. And then, truthfully, I said there was one other person, and I mean this sincerely because it's the absolute truth. And if you know me well enough, all of you know that's my wife. The influence that she's had on me has been probably the greatest, of course, because when she met me, it was a very tough time when I was a Marine. It was a lot of bad things were going on in the world, especially where I was at, and things that had happened for me to get there were pretty darn bad. And through it was a lot of aggravation and miscommunication and misunderstandings, cultural differences, religious differences, so to speak. Everything was so much differences, and I think those of you who are watching this know how hard it is at times to it depends on your take, but to live with people that you have a lot of similarities to. You add a lot of our differences and a lot of the things that made it very hard for us to ever even be together. And I mean that, like, it's a story, hopefully, like I said, one day it'll all come out, but everything was against us being together. And I mean just about everything. The Marines, to family back in her country, and understandably so, to the war, in Yugoslavia when I, was there and trying to get her out. And, it was, all I can tell you is, if and the few of you that do, what I had to go through, what we had to go through to be together, then you will know this walk in the park around the HOA that we're doing right now is exactly that. And if you think that I'm taking that lightly or something, then you have no idea who I am or who she is. But this is a walk in the park, holding hands on the beach, listening to the waves crash, and getting ready to sit down on a blanket and open up some champagne and enjoy ourselves, because that's exactly what the comparison is to what we're going through here to what we had to go through. And I do think that most of you will at one point in time hear that story. So that's why I am the way that I am in terms of very protective. I'm also obviously very more protective of the HOA, and that's who I am naturally, but that's been enhanced through, like everyone, things that happen in our lives. So she's taught me how to be a real man in many ways, in all ways. She's kind of who I credit for, rounding off some of my sharp edges. Some of you may disagree with that they're still sharp, but you, again, if that's what you think, and I respect that. You don't really know me all that well, and she's helped me with that, but she's also helped me grow as a man by being a husband, a real husband, and being with my family, and which I didn't need help with that, and being with her, and I didn't need help with that. But I mean, more along the lines of, she's a very, very silent, demonstrative leader. She's not a vocal person. She can be, but like her father, my father-in-law, she uses her words wisely, and I envy that about her. So it's great, her and her father, very much that way. So But I've also learned, from her and the influence that she had, just by, making me, the father of our children. I mean, that's a huge influence. I mean, listen, you can call it whatever you want, but um, that's a huge influence on any man's life. And the need for, me to be in my children's life is vital. It's important. And she makes it easy. And honestly, I'm not making this shit up. I don't care what anyone thinks. I want this to be what this was supposed to be, which is a little bit more about, something other than the HOA stuff. So you kind of get an idea of, the non-HOA side of it and of me. And actually, you know what? It was a good idea. Like a lot of ideas, I'm resistant to some of them at first, but I warm up to the idea once I think about it and if it's a good idea. So, but she definitely, that influence is huge, being a father and understanding, only having my father for 4 years. I live every day wishing that, he could see and I could see my kids with him. So she never would ever, I think, say anything like that to me, but I think she doesn't need to, because I know her well enough to where she doesn't have to. That is what is influential, but it's also something that, is powerful. I mean, I've only known it to be one way. You want something or you go something, you let them know politely or whatever, hopefully that's always the way. But she can be very direct indirectly, if that makes sense. I think definitely does to me, so hopefully it does to you too. And even now, she's been the rock and foundation for everything that I'm doing and accomplishing, and steadfast in her support for me and knowing who I am, and not trying to change that part of me. Strong enough to, in my toughest times, she finds a way to penetrate this, what seems to be this impenetrable barrier that sometimes can come up in defense of things, not ideas. So I'm always open to ideas. And that's where I feel like I've learned a lot from her, and I gravitate more to people like her. And there's a lot to love and like about her, that's for sure. And she also has influenced me, and she's one of the hardest workers I know. I don't know if I know. Actually, she's the hardest worker I know, and the most consistent worker I know. She never misses. She's dedicated to her craft and is extremely gifted in the math and physics area. Obviously, she's electrical engineering, but that influence that she's had has been, complete. And in many ways, I think it makes sense, because I've lived with her longer than I've lived with anybody, certainly longer than anybody would want to live with me. So, and she manages to pull it off with a smile, and she's fooled me if she didn't like living with me. But there's no doubt about how lucky I am as a man. And those of you that know her, and those of you that seen her, yeah, I've heard it all before. I outkicked my coverage. Boy, I did better than I should have. She's out of my league, and bring them on. I don't mind at all. That's all compliments to me too. So, very appreciative of her and her influence, and even as part of the culture that she's brought to my family too, and the constant reminders of that old school, kind of family value that she, asserts into and reminds me of with the children and into this home, which is great. And she always seems to know when the best time to, intervene is. So, probably right now. So, anyway, there is one more question, and I'll get this one, and then I'll be right there. And let's see, where was it? Something that was a question. Oh, here we go. It was, what is the hardest part of my job? I don't know. I like my job, so the hardest part of it maybe is spending quite a bit of time away from the family doing work, but that's it. So anyways, thank you guys so much. Again, hopefully this works in terms of it gives you what we're trying to convey in the message and the communication and all that stuff. So I appreciate you all, and I appreciate your support, and look forward to talking to you guys another time. Bye.